everyone. This right here, right now, is the joy of being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. And if you're joining us anywhere, if you're joining us anywhere else, or even there, we want to know. What do you have to say about that, Sela? That's what Sela thinks about that. Folks, very lovely to be here with you. We got the doggy cam going today for fun and good times to be had for all. Folks, very excited, as always. Joy of being a live stream coming to you live. We're going to be talking today a little bit about some challenging emotions and how to work through that. That is, I remembered some teaching from Shinzen that I thought was very fun, and I thought we would explore that if that is of interest. Ooh, we got a little doggo excitement over here. Roar, good morning, Jean from Brooklyn. Good morning from Kingston. Rory, great to have you here. Who else is here? Where else are people coming from? I feel like I should turn the doggy cam back on. Doggy cam. Oh, here we go. Doggy cam. Come on, come on. Yeah, yeah. I know you want it. Yeah. So folks, I have to remember the other cameras over here. So when I want to have doggy cam, I gotta manage so many pieces. Okay. This is her little cactus that she likes. Oh, a little cactus. Yeah. Take that. So where are folks? Oh, we got Scott and Esmond here. Scott, remind me again where you're coming from. The UK, is that correct? You're coming from the UK? She won. She got it. Leave it. Good girl. Yeah, where are folks coming from? Oh my goodness. Nick, a new subscriber. Nick just popping on. Nick, you've been subscribed for 14 months. Isn't that crazy? That's like unbelievable. Such a kind supporter. So appreciated. Yeah, where are folks coming from? So folks, today I was thinking about doing this technique that Shinzen described. I remember seeing a video again, and I was going to share it with folks. Bay Area, of course. Scott, you're in the Bay Area. And so I thought maybe we just watch that video. I know it's a little boring to watch someone else's video in a live stream instead of watching a dog. This should just be the whole stream, just a dog fighting. I won't call it meditation. I guess it is. I guess we could do meditation just on this. Notice the cuteness and the whatever emotions are arising. This is my technique to deal with difficult emotions. Is have the dog dance around. See, she can do spins. Come on, see ya. Evolve. Come on. Yeah, dance around, dance around. Good girl. You get the treat now. Okay. So, folks, but in all seriousness now, folks, let's just pretend that never happened. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Let's see here. I want to pop up this video here of Shinzen, and then we can watch it. Or maybe we'll watch it after. I'm not really sure. Let me decide real quick. Looks like all my tabs got erased, maybe. Here we go. No. Okay, so folks, yeah, the idea would be... no, not playing that. The idea would be to check out this video of Shinzen's, then try that technique. I think I'd probably guide it a little bit differently than Shinzen guides it, but that would be the general breakdown, if that sounds of interest. No, not my channel. I don't want to play my channel. Let's see, history. Watch this video recently. Here we go. This is the video. Let me pull it up on screen so you can see it. You can see here and feel it. I'll put it over here. I'll watch it. I'm going to play a little fast because just I watch videos fast. Let's see here. Pop, 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 fizz, fizz. Window capture, this one. No, monitor 2. There we go. There we go. Maybe we do this. No, not that. Okay, cool. So, why I want this? Okay, here we go. Sorry, I got it. Found it. Got it. Got it. Found it. Got it. Found it. Okay, we're going to watch a video with Shinzen describing dealing with tough emotions. Let's make that a little bigger. And Okay, sorry guys. I'm just setting this up. I apologize. It wasn't set up before. Hello, welcome. Cactus is good symbol for difficult emotions. Exactly. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to watch this. I'm going to be off on the side here. Okay. See what that looks like. Nope, that's wrong, but we'll go from there. There we go. Click it right in place. Okay, we'll just roll with that. I think you can hear this. We're going to play it at a different speed. I think we'll do 1.5. If it's too fast, let me know, but I think it should be fine.
The ancient Taoists had experienced the same thing and had an interesting phraseology for it. It relates to Jing, Qi, Sha, which are terms that you may be familiar with if you've studied Asian medicine or martial arts and so forth. So Jing means essence, literally. So essence of what? Well, in terms of sensory experience, often in the process of completing an experience, a certain flavor has to sort of get distilled and dominate your awareness. And that distillation of that experience could be described in Chinese as Jing or essence. Now, in the Taoist practice, the particular distillation that they often worked with was sexual sensation. But this can be generalized to any kind of experience. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the body, although it's sort of easiest to understand there. But it can, the same thing can happen in visual and in auditory. You sort of, everything gets distilled. So let's say, for example, you are working on having fear no longer be an issue for you. How can that be? Because there's so many circumstances of fear in this world, so many legitimate reasons to be afraid.
So I just want to pause here. So basically what Shinzen's describing, and he'll go into more detail, but is one way to metabolize, where's the camera? One way to metabolize an emotion is to deeply allow it to be present and allow that to be continuous, allow it to be as directional as possible, and that the system will get used to relating to that difficult emotion in that way. Tell me if this is wrong, I'm actually going to speed this up even more because right now it's still pretty slow.
It just goes on and on and on. How can it be that a human being could become a human being for whom fear is no longer an issue? Broader still. If you can do that, well, why not add in grief and sadness? Or anger? Or on a more mundane note, that frenetic impatience that we have all day, that comes out when you're in a traffic jam, which is very ordinary, but actually a source of significant suffering in the world. And now, at the other extreme, what you would hardly think any human being could ever come to grips with, shame and embarrassment. How about that one? So anger, fear, sadness, embarrassment, impatience, disgust. Those are the big six on the negative side of flavors of human emotion. I know for sure that a human being can reach the point where those are no longer an issue for them. So how is that possible? How is it possible to do with all of those? How is it possible to do with even one of those? Well, first you have to be willing to allow it to distill into an essence. What that means is that particular flavor, whichever one it is, anger, fear, sadness, each one has its own very distinct quality in the body. So the essence of fear occurs when there is nothing but the fear sensation. It is in every cubic centimeter of your body, and it is continuous, unbroken in time.
So something I want to emphasize here, he says it has its own distinct flavor. We've worked with this before when we talked about its uniqueness, and that's a very important quality, that if you can pull out something's uniqueness, especially even if it's uncomfortable, it can suddenly shift from being something that's like very painful, very overwhelming, to something that is, it's the unique quality of it sort of increases in import over its intensity. Typically it's the intensity we're reacting to, but if we can step back from the intensity, and if we can step back from the intensity and look at the unique quality of it, it can often be very transformative.
For a period of time. Now we're very, very afraid of what the consequences of that would be. But the fear of the consequences of that is actually what keeps us imprisoned for our whole life. Because the consequences of allowing it to become essence in the way I've just described, the consequences are nothing negative at all. The long-term consequences are freedom. But because we're afraid to let it go to that point, very few people become free. So if the shit really hits the fan to the point where you cannot avoid one or a combination of these negative emotions becoming essence, well, in a sense, that could be a very good thing. So I repeat, there is nothing but that flavor. You're essentially hardly aware of anything else in the body. It's everywhere, and it's continuous through time. So now you are inundated with the essence of shame, or grief, or fear, or the impatience associated with being in a traffic jam and you're late to an appointment. That one is just about as hard to work with as all the others. It took me, oh my God, from the time I realized what the task was, which is what I'm now describing to you, from the time I realized what the task was to the time where I could actually do it with that impatience thing in traffic and not suffer. Okay, well, I don't want to, maybe I shouldn't say this, okay? 20 years, okay? But the 20 years passed anyway. Now, okay, so I know what you're saying, well, I don't have 20 years, okay? That's another Dharma talk. I'm going to give a talk about aging. But the quick answer is, aging is a natural state of no self, so you got something going for you. Okay? But if you're young and have 20 years, well, it might not take you 20 years, but it took me 20 years to get to the point where it really felt good, like liberating, to have that level of essence with impatience. Like I say, if you're already old, you've already got some things going for you, and we'll talk about that later. So there's hope in both cases. So it becomes essence. And then it starts to get sort of liquidy.
I want to mention, this is part of what we've been talking about. I realize just this is a different framing, but this is part of what we've been talking about recently with being able to find the pleasurable side of difficult emotion. So I've been coming at it from that angle, but this sort of experiential, like feeling the emotion everywhere in the body is powerful. And I'm not sure if it goes into it in this video, but often the question is, well, how do I feel an emotion other than where it is occurring in the body? And it's, in a sense, it's like you feel like from the feet, and the feet, in a way, it's like you just trick the mind. The feet are the thing that can feel the emotion. It's like that's what feels it. That's the organism that feels the emotion, and it just spreads throughout the body eventually. Yes.
化精为气, the essence converts into a kind of energy that is first sort of liquidy and then sort of shimmering and gaseous, okay? And then, 化气为神, that becomes this effortless, simultaneous, formless, rich doing of space, spaciousness, effortlessly spreading, effortlessly collapsing. And it's at that point that you have a complete experience of that particular essence. It has now become Shen, pure spirit. Now, as I say, they did this traditionally with sexual sensations. So it's the same process, okay? The sexual sensation inundates the entire body. There's nothing but that, okay? And it's very hard to have equanimity with that. It's hard to have equanimity with uncomfortable things. It's also hard to have equanimity with intense pleasures. And then it starts to flow everywhere. And then it's sort of like more gaseous. And then it's just pure space. And that's what the Tibetans call Dedong Yerme, the non-duality of bliss and void. So if you can go through that phase progression with just a half dozen negatives, it's a small list. Unfortunately, each one of those essences, each one of those flavors, has been honed by Darwin to control animals. And by Darwin, I don't mean the man Darwin, I mean natural selection, over millions and millions of years.
Yeah, this is a great point, that all those forces are meant to like push us in certain directions. They're meant to be like, react in this way or that way. So it's we're going against when they talk about going against the stream. This is part of the premise of going against the innate sort of built-in wiring.
So it is very hard to allocate all your resources to having a complete experience of these things, because everything in the sensation says, I got to do something about this, I got to do something about this, I got to do something about this, because those sensations have been honed by evolution to make animals do something quickly.
And so when he says that, it's like when we have a difficult emotion, it's like, I was talking to Gene about this recently, and like there's this need inside. It's like, oh, I have to. So it's not just like the need to like change our drapes. It's like internally this need to like fix or do or something to change. Now we're going to go into this, but I also want people to know that if you feel overwhelmed or the need just gets more intense than you'd like to deal with, it's okay to stop the practice. You don't have to just bear down the whole time. And I think that sometimes when we talk about dealing with difficult emotion, the anticipation of bearing down and how bad it will be is much worse than the emotion itself. And I think he mentioned this earlier, but that the difficult or like being flooded by the emotion is much less painful or overwhelming than the anticipation of being flooded by it. So that's part of what we're looking to observe and break
about
down.
Something. Either approach it and eat it, or run away from it, or et cetera, or make love to it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very hard to just allocate the totality of your resources towards completing. But all you have to do is do that a few times, or, well, more than a few times, a few hundred times. And then it becomes habitual. Then for the rest of your life, you will have experiences in your emotional world that are maximally poignant and minimally problematic.
Okay. Remember basicmindfulness.org, guys? Remember that? Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on today, and hopefully this isn't too far a departure from what Shinzen's saying. I found that sometimes looking inward at the emotion is overly intense. I want to make sure this is stable. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second. The looking directly can feel like I'm just like flooded with emotion. So what I started using, if anyone's familiar with the scholar stone, I was just imagining one actually. These are stones that are used in China or come from Chinese, tradition related to the mountains being the conduit of the gods. So they'd find these natural forming stones that were transcendent effectively and would help you absorb into them as a sort of transcendent vehicle. So I was actually, as strange as it might seem, feeling the emotion in the stone. So that might be too weird, but we'll find out. That sounds kind of weird, but we'll see. Now we're going to jump back to our doggy cam, and let me fix this because I want to make sure it's enough of a ta-da. So with this process, I had been imagining the scholar stone, but now I've actually got one. So we can use this. This, my friends, is a beautiful, has a really incredible negative space. I wish we could see the negative space more clearly, but it's so gorgeous and so powerful. This is just a natural forming piece of stone that is I've been using to put whatever difficult emotions, put them into that stone and feel them there, feel them in the nuance and contour and detail of the stone itself. So you're welcome to do that, or you can practice with the eyes closed. You can imagine the stone as we go forward, but this is a place that will hold whatever difficult thing there is, so we don't have to. And that might sound very strange because it's our emotion, etc., but the mind is actually flexible enough that it can often handle something like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice for about 25 minutes. I'm going to encourage folks to keep the body still. And let's see. Let's see. Okay, I'm a bit confused. Is it an imagination exercise? Okay, that's a good question. And actually, as I'm thinking about it, Gene said, watching Sila pull on the cactus toy makes me think of the same sensations of need. Exactly. That's like dogs are driven by those needs, animals, etc. Imagining the emotion somewhere else. Okay, you're actually right. I think we're going to not do the scholar stone today. We're going to have one more peek at it because it's so beautiful. I really admire this stone. I love this stone very much. And we'll do more of an internal process, and then maybe next time we will use this. I can set up a nice cam where we can see the whole beautiful negative space. I'm very happy with this acquisition. So we'll use that next time. This lovely sucker, that way I can take it off this stool so it's not sitting perched up high where Sila can bump it. That was my next concern. Okay, so we're just going to do an internal process. I think you're right there. Exalted. So finding that nice comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. I appreciate folks bearing with me with the coughing recently. I've been in the middle of the meditation, have to cough a little bit. Don't know what that is, but hopefully it's going away over time. I think it's because I'm just whispering to the microphone and my throat's like, If people know how to get through that so you don't have to do that on the mic, or if anyone's a singer and knows a trick, let me know. Okay, so finding that nice comfortable position that you can maintain. Because we're going to be dealing with some challenging emotion, I want folks to remember you can always move, you can always adjust if it feels like it's too much. We do not want to get ourselves into a place where we just don't like doing meditation, and so what we want to do is, before the intensity gets up to an 11, we, at a level 1 or level 2, we say, okay, I'm going to make a little adjustment, or maybe I'm actually going to meditate on something else. So that's the basic breakdown. So go ahead, find that nice comfortable position. And when you're ready, we will begin. Here we go. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and just feeling the body rise and fall. Each time we begin a meditation, we begin with the momentum of all of the previous moments. So the body may be agitated or sleepy. The mind may be active or dull. And we're simply opening to the nature of whatever is present. And as we physically relax the body, letting go of any of the gross muscle tension in the body, also relaxing even more deeply. All the way down to the level of the bone, where the muscles themselves attach to the bone. As though if we let go deeply enough, the muscles themselves would simply float away from the body. And getting used to the experience of experiencing the overall body. So not any particular part, but the general experience of body sensation. This can seem as though we're transitioning from a zoomed-in central view, which observes details, to a kind of peripheral view, an overall halo of awareness capturing the general sense of the body at this moment. Noticing that this overall sensing is a little bit softer. It's not so detailed as when we zoom in, just a general capture. If at any point we notice a particular sensation, perhaps the sensation in our hand or torso, some itch, whatever arises, noticing that sensation in the context of the whole. So the mind may naturally zoom in to some particular sensation, and simply allowing the sensations around it to be included until we can find a general connection with the overall experience of the body. Noticing if the mind is pulling us forward, some idea of how this is supposed to be or where we're supposed to get. This will take up mental real estate, so just reapplying the practice of observing the overall experience of the body. Noticing that as we hold the overall experience of the body, there are there are parts of the body that want, that need. Perhaps they want to move. Perhaps they simply reach for some other experience, emotions that tell us to move towards something or move away. And there are neutral parts of our body. Just sensations that don't seem like they need to push or pull in any direction. And we might have more of one or the other category. Simply knowing that both are normal, natural. if we have a expectation, a sense of how this should go, or even a judgment, this is going wonderfully, perhaps I want more. These are the kind of drives or needs I'm referring to. Some part of the system that feels it can and should shape our experience. Another term for this is emotion. So if we detect anything like this, any part of our current experience that would, if it could, wave its own little magic wand and change this current moment, any kind of desire or desire for the lack of desire, any expectation, any subtle internal need, first knowing that this is natural. It's just one sensation among many. So if at this point you feel these sensations, know that that's natural. They are expressing their nature. If at this moment you don't feel these sensations, but some part of you feels like maybe you should, this is another example. And if you don't feel these sensations at all, knowing that this too is natural. So we first tune into the body. Generally, notice if there are any ways the emotional body is pushing or pulling, wanting, not wanting, liking, disliking. Recognizing the uniqueness of this particular drive. It's a very particular, specific flavor, unlike any other. And recognizing this is nature, not a problem. And seeing if we can detect that sensation among all the others. If at any point we become distracted, drift away, simply coming back to this process. Detecting the body, detecting any emotion or need within the body. Soaking into the uniqueness of that sensation and recognizing it among all the other sensations. Not worried about breaking up this process into these 4 parts, just finding our own intuitive way to stay with this experience. See how continuously we can stay with this experience. Noticing if there's any resistance to the emotion, any resistance to the process, any evaluation or expectation. These are all the same material that we can recycle back into the process. As though we were simply soaking in the sun. We don't need to do anything, simply arrange the pieces, and the system itself metabolizes. If we're trying to soak up the rays of the sun, we can't just step out for a moment. We also don't want to just put part of our body out in the gorgeous sunlight. Simply letting the light of awareness wrap all around us. And letting this process metabolize any challenging emotion, any yearning and need, even if that need is subtle. And if we find a particular sensation, a particular emotion or need that feels central or calls to us, we can attend to this one, or if we find that a more general approach is better at this time, staying with all that arise. Knowing that sometimes we unintentionally put a strange limit on the experiential size of our body. A kind of restraint on where we detect body sensations. We might imagine that we can only detect body sensations where the physical body is. And while this is intuitively true, just allowing ourselves to feel the body as far out as we'd like to, in as large of a space as feels available. Not letting the mind tighten the belt around where it thinks the body is, letting the body sensations themselves expand to whatever volume they feel fit to be experienced within. A kind of relaxing of the body and relaxing of the mind. Knowing that this process is happening live, responding and reacting to our environment. The mind will assess or dislike what it thinks is a distraction, be uncomfortable with a body sensation, push and pull, So we meet this ongoing process of experiencing with this ongoing process of holding these sensations in the larger context of all body sensation. And perhaps noticing the degree to which we can feel the body's sensations everywhere. Allowing the sensations to thin out and be experienced above and below, left and right. And noticing what occurs in the body as you hear the following words. So remaining in stillness, the formal practice will not end until the bell goes silent. So notice if even hearing words related to the end of the formal meditation sends activation throughout the body, throughout the mind. And now allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes, eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point as they fully open, taking in the large overall experience of seeing, allowing this to increase the volume of awareness. Noticing whatever drives, impulses, reactions are present now. Experiencing them within the whole of all body sensation. And in this way, allowing this particular moment to be the great teacher that shows us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay. So what on earth was that experience like? Now, folks, is the time when we whip out our digital technology and use that to communicate to me what happened in your experience, to me and to others. In the meantime, we're going to unfold any parts of the body that are sleepy or need adjusting. Stretch anything that would be helpful to stretch. Drink any warm water out of any beakers that we happen to have nearby. Important after a meditation is to switch to the doggy cam so that the dog can get some virtual attention here. Where's the doggy cam? Okay, doggy cam active in 3, 2, where's the cactus, Sela? 1, Sela. I have this thing, which these are dog toys. I mean, not to be, imprudent, but these things couldn't be made to look more like a Oh, there's 2 cams here. Look at that. Double cam. More like a butt plug. I mean, come on. This is very weird. And they're pink. It's just like a weird... See, look. Is this... Will you use this as a tug toy? It's not really a tug toy. Come on, you little... So, sometimes I feel like if you talk to her, she gets more like ramped up. Also, if you like touch her body or smack her butt while she's grabbing something, she'll get so growly. It's like very cute. Come on. No? You don't like that description? You figured out what this thing looks like, and you're hesitating. You're like, I don't want to play that thing anymore. Oh, there you go. Doggy can. All right, let's get to the point here, folks. Okay, Adwake says at the start of the sit, widening attention to cover the whole body, the halo, often produces pleasant effects, as it did this sit. So no nasties to work with. And so just keep in mind, also part of what I'm describing is that, okay, now dog cam off. Also part of what I'm describing is someone asked me about this before when I was talking about need. You want to see a need very simply and easily, just try not blinking, and then watch a need arise within you, a very strong need. It'll be a sensation that'll be slightly uncomfortable, but whatever, I can handle a slightly uncomfortable sensation. I'm just poking my hand with my fingernail. Not the end of the world, but the system will start saying, no, you have to blink, you have to blink, you have to blink. And, it'll just eventually force the system to blink. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to, have the most uncomfortable things or feel like we have to force against those things, but it is helpful to know that we breathe in and out, because if we don't, it hurts. It's a very powerful way for evolution to get an entity to breathe. You make it painful if they don't breathe out. You make it painful if they don't breathe in on either side. And in the middle, it's relatively pleasurable. So the system just sits there and breathes back and forth, keeping itself alive. It's a very good system to keep things going. But it's helpful to know that is still a need within the system. So no nasties is fine, and try to tune into any clinging or aversion or unconsciousness, any assessment, any judgment, any of those things. Okay, well, I realize I want the computer to read these for me. It's very strange. I had all these windows open. Here they are. Got them. Okay, here we go. I'm muted. Let's hear what Gene has to say here. Computer, activate.
I noticed twice during the meditation that I was holding a lot of tension in my wrists. If that same tension had been in my hands, they would have been fists. The first time, I allowed myself a brief, slow stretch to release the tension. The second time, I used a combination of breath and imagining gravity taking the tension to get rid of it. Otherwise, sat still and stayed with it. Enjoyed, thanks.
Great. Excellent. I'd be curious, Gene, if you were able to hold that tension, whatever the tension was arising, in the context of all of the other body sensations, and what that was like, what happened there. What's today's topic? Today's topic is processing and working with challenging emotion. I think it says working through tough emotion. That's what the title I put down was. That's the topic. So, of course, you can ask any questions that are unrelated to that topic, but that, my friend, is in mind, is the topic. The other topic here, of course, is one-handed computer operation, is, wait for it, unmitigated doggy cam. Look who we got. It's Super Sela. Dun, 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 dun. Go Sela, fly. Oh my god, look how similar we look right now, scale-wise and everything. Right around here. We look pretty similar. My puppy eyes. Her eyes are so dark, it's like impossible to see. It's hard to train because they have to be like looking. You want them to make eye contact with you, and her eyes are so dark. I'm like, are you looking at me? Are you looking at the food? What are you looking at? Unless you really point her at the light, and even then, it's like, where are your eyes? Do you have eyes? Or are you just an eyeless dog? There, I saw a glimmer. Look, there's a glimmer somewhere. Anyway. She freaks out when I make that sound. Oh, dogs. Okay, next one. Adwake says, I might be mistaken, but thought you did a stream on internal family systems. I certainly have. Or am I imagining? Can't find after Googling. Okay, so we call it the multiple self model because we're coming at it from a sort of, to some degree, a Buddhist perspective. So if you, here, let's punch this up. If somebody wants to find this specific link. Okay, the second channel here, the YouTube number 2, or maybe it's the last one here. Go to that one in that channel and search for a playlist called Multiple Self Model, and you'll find, I think, 7 videos. There's 5 or 6, 7. But anything that has multiple self, look for multiple self in any of the videos. There's a lot of videos that we go over this. And also the playlist that's about my psychedelic journeys, my psychedelic experiences. I'm doing a lot of IFS work in the actual journeys themselves. So that's something that might be worth, if that's of interest, to look into. Let's see here. Jean says, I guess you might say the sensation of need to reduce the tension overcame the ability to zoom out. Okay, great. So, and that's fine. And I think you was very skillful to make whatever adjustments you need to, especially when we talk about like the need to not overwhelm the system. Something I want to mention is that I talk about what we're describing here as zooming out, but I'm sort of, the language of zooming out, all language has various problems. Oop, I've frozen myself. When this cam freezes, it never wants to unfreeze. Let me see if I can fix it. Oh, it worked. I did it. So rather than zooming out, which almost seems like we're trying to force something that's this big to get bigger, just include the material that's nearby. It's almost like it just sort of gets melted in. It's like a, something's hot in the middle, and all the butter or cheese or whatever the thing it's melting is just like melting as towards the center. So just include more material rather than feeling like you're trying to pull something that's going out. Just include more sensation. That's my general thing about zooming. Oh, awesome, Adwake. I'm glad you. Adawake. There you go, Adawake. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, curiosities, interests? Let's also pop in the Zoom here in case anyone wants to chit-chat like kitty cats, to jump in here. Yeah, anything else? If you want to jump on the Zoom, let me know. And what else? Any other questions, interests, opportunities? Who wants to talk about my Scholar Stone? I was staring at this thing for so long, and then all of a sudden I realized the negative space inside of it, and I was like, oh my god, it's so it's like a whole other universe if I really like soak into the negative space. It's like so incredible. I feel like the negative space on this thing is just like fully transcendent. I just like it fully like erases some part of me in a way that's very pleasant and interesting. So this thing is super groovy, man. I'm very happy. I'm amazed at the balance on this thing. Like, this is a naturally occurring stone. I checked, I got it. It's like, it's very heavy. This probably feels like metal. I checked the material. It is stone. I think it's granite, so it's very heavy. But this little vase is look, it's carved to fit in perfectly. It's exactly like hand carved. It fits in so perfectly like a key, and then it's like crazy stable. It's like really like on the table. It's like it's not going to fall over, although I'm so terrified it's going to fall over. I don't want to put it anywhere in my house. I'm like, I got to create a little corner for it. But it's so, there's all these like nooks. I just found this nook just now. Hadn't seen it before. Where is it? Here. Let's see if I can see the camera. You can see it. There's another, yeah, that nook, the one that, yeah, that one. Another little nook that comes from another angle. So cool. So good. This thing is the best. I love this thing. Damn. I'm really into this rock. It's also, we'll do this practice soon, we'll work with it. I used it in IFS therapy, actually, because the therapist was saying, can you take the emotion, put it outside of yourself in some way that would make it safe? And somehow the image of a scholar's stone arose, and I was like, I'm just going to put the emotion there and explore the stone as a way to explore the emotion. So that's a trick you can do using awareness. Let's see here. Futu Wong says, okay, great. Solid report here. Let's hear computer voice activate.
First of all, about a year ago I was rather active here in preparation for Sayadaw U Indaka's metta retreat. Thank you for our preparation back then. Life-changing weeks. About today, my mind is rather jumpy after unusual coffee consumption and studying, so your guidance was very helpful. When you said to notice whether I am limiting my body awareness, that turned out to be true. Impression of space expanded and concentration increased. I noticed how I was also limiting the pleasantness.
Interesting. Yeah, and that's something that I find to be the case, that like just naturally we tend to assume that the body sensations are where the physical body is, and it's sort of weird to even think that they would be anything other than that, but it is just tends to be the case that the experience of the sensations they can be sort of limitless. Like I mentioned this right at the end, but I didn't want to emphasize it because it can be challenging for folks, but you can detect the body sensations everywhere. Like as far as the mind can expand out, you can detect body sensations there if you sort of let go enough into that. So there is that. And Scott has a little note for us here. Thank you for that report. P.S. Futu Wong, thank you for that report. And I'm glad to hear the retreat went well. I'd be curious to hear to hear more about that. That's something that I'd be very curious, because here's the thing. Having sat with him a fair amount, and then having then sat with him in the United States and really tried to unpack what he was doing and working with other teachers to like get clear on what he was doing, my interpretation of what he was doing, on its face, was different than what he was presenting. So just to zoom out a little bit here, Sayadaw U Indaka is a student of Mahasi Sayadaw, so these great teachers, teachers, and he teaches in Burma. He's a Burmese gentleman. He speaks a very little bit of English, and I went on a retreat with him for a month in Burma, and got to spend some time with him before and after the retreat, and got to spend some time. He came to the United States, so we got to spend a little time with him. A teacher and friend of mine was hosting him, so we, whatever. It was nice. Got to dig into his teachings a little bit, and he teaches loving kindness in a way that's very particular. And a lot of what I was trying to do is translate what he was teaching, or clarify what he's teaching, because in Burma it's very, the culture is very like, oh, you don't get it, just go practice more. And like really getting into the detail of what is it he's trying to say, So I'd be curious from you if my framing of what he was describing is accurate, or if you just got a very different read on that. And hopefully one of the biggest pieces of translation you get there is there's a nun whose name is escaping me right now, who's wonderful, a Western nun who speaks very clear English, and she's very helpful in helping translate a lot of his work. Okay, so Scott Nesbin says,
I noticed tension in the chest area that was very unpleasant. Focusing on it made it more unpleasant, but widening awareness made it easier to work with. I'm wondering how to incorporate what Shinzen says about having complete experiences of emotions with also staying within the window of tolerance. I feel like if I follow his instructions, I will definitely go outside of the window of tolerance.
Great. So what you're saying there is Shinzen's instructions. It seems to me, if I do what Shinzen's saying, I will exit the window of tolerance. That's an indication that you should not do what he's saying. You can hint towards it, you can slowly move in that direction, but the goal is not to do what Shinzen's saying. The goal is to learn to metabolize the emotion. If it's like a thing where someone says, oh, if you eat these, this isn't a good metaphor. I was going to give a metaphor like somebody training themselves to be able to eat poison, but detecting these emotions is not eating poison. So whatever. I mean, the point is that someone could tell you to do something, and in the wrong context, it's going to be very someone tells you, hey, take a nice deep breath. Well, in the context of being underwater, that's not a wise thing to do. So you want to prioritize the window of tolerance first. And doing that is going to give your system enough of a platform and a sense of safety that it can sort of dip out and be like, okay, I'm going to try these things. It's also the fact that as concentration increases, you can do more, your window of tolerance expands. But what I typically tell people is you want to be assessing, should I dig into this emotion based on your normal level of concentration, how you read your window of tolerance there. So if you're on a retreat, you might decide to do different things, but in daily life, you want to really be paying attention to that window of tolerance. But what you did today was actually closer to what Shinzen said, where you actually instead of zooming into the emotion, which is often especially with old somatically held emotion, which sounds like maybe what you're describing, potentially indicative of developmental trauma or just general trauma. If you're interested in reading more about that, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, highly recommend. But zooming in is often very painful, and actually what we need to do is zoom out and allow it to be in a bigger container, and that's it. Just hang out with it, allow it. It doesn't have to expand, doesn't have to whatever, but the pain is already there, and it's probably playing out in your life in ways that you are aware of or are not aware of, whatever. This is where like addictions come from, and like, you know, all these intense needs to do things that might be destructive. So to open awareness and allow the sensation to be there, allow it to sort of be felt in a larger experience, not forcing it, and allowing it to be experienced among all the other sensations, this is very relieving. And that's my interpretation of what Shinzen's describing. Sometimes you can actually take an emotion and just expand it out, but I'm describing it in just a different way, which allows for other sensations. And if at any point we feel overwhelmed, we can switch sensations. And I said at some point, if you're called to a specific sensation, allow that to be felt universally. But it is a very slow process. Honestly, when Shinzen said like 20 years, I think that, 5 years is a good, if you're really working with an emotion, to work through big chunks of it. But I think that's reasonable, as it can take quite a long time to do this, especially if we do it responsibly. And you just don't want to scare the system. Like with our puppy, at some point, we don't know how, she just got scared of the harness that we use to take her out all day, every day. So it's this weird thing where now we have to, if we just like put that goddamn harness on, I don't care that you're scared, she would just get more and more and more scared. So we have to just be like, okay, here's some treats and food to get you to put your harness on, which is like, I get annoyed, but it's like you have to go at the speed of the most vulnerable part to some degree. Okay, Futu Wong says, and probably in response to my question about the retreat, I'm not sure yet.
That is true. Without you and Avaranani, I would have probably misunderstood the practice. I used your recordings a few weeks beforehand, and she helped me with my individual perspective.
Great. Yeah, Virinyani is the name of the nun, who's just great. She's so great. She also helped co-write the Mahasi Sayadaw Manual of Insight along with other Western teachers. So she's a really powerful teacher there. And then Futu Wong also says, oops.
When I asked him, sometimes I would receive rather generic answers.
Yeah.
Asking her and remembering your guidelines what it is like most use too much effort really opened up the retreat for me. Metta practice now has become a big part of my baseline. Great.
So one of the big things I said about Sayadaw U Indaka is that, you get to it at some point, but he basically is saying like less effort. When you talk to him, sometimes his answers are very generic, but if you read what he's doing, you look at what he's describing, you talk to the other nuns, you really get into it, you start to see that there's some through lines that go through this. And most people in his system over effort. So if you've heard me talk about doing metta practice, or now I talk about it as actually developing the kind awareness. That's what I think he was calling the metta mind state, is developing kind awareness. Often people just put so much effort. They're like trying, and he's just like, no, you're trying too hard, just the slightest little bit. So I actually emphasize non-doing and then adding a tiny bit of kindness. So folks, you know what? Super lovely as always to see you folks. Really good times here. I am very happy to be here with you. We're going to be back here in fewer than 48 hours. We're going to be back here with the doggy cam. We're going to be back here with maybe if folks are interested, we can practice with this little sucker, using this as a totem to process and work through our emotional difficulties. I don't even know if that'll work. It worked for me, and I loved it so much. I don't know if it'll work for others, but this thing is just, it's just, I can see how they would take these to be transcendent objects. Very beautiful. Okay, the point is, folks, lovely to be here with you. Very happy to have shared this time with you, and so I have a wish for you that right now in this particular moment, to notice whatever drives are arising within you, simple ones, complex ones, and to allow those to be experienced in the overall awareness. Notice that large overall awareness doesn't need anything to be different. It just experiences the world. And so taking something that needs the world to be different and experiencing it within the lens of something that doesn't need the world to be different is massively liberating, freeing, easeful, peaceful in that way. So my wish for you is simply to notice any of those drives as they're arising now throughout your day, and let them, allow them, give them the freedom to be felt in this larger experience, knowing that they're natural. Folks, as always, practice well, have fun, take care of each other, and we'll see you all very, very soon.